The views and opinions expressed on this episode of In Tune with T Mill are by the individual host and guest and do not reflect the views and opinions of the Maitland Conservatory or Sunshine Enterprises. In Tune with T Mill is powered by and recorded live at the Maitland Conservatory. The Maitland Conservatory is a community-based contemporary arts and education entity designed to give students hands-on training and experience in areas such as music production, contemporary instrumental training, vocal coaching, leadership, and much more. Call or visit them today at the maitlandconservatory.org. This episode of In Tune with T-Mill is produced by Sunshine Enterprises. For more episodes and behind the scenes, make sure you subscribe, share, and comment wherever you listen to podcasts. Whatever your favorite app is, we're there. Just search In Tune with T-Mill. You can find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podomatic. Wherever you listen to podcasts, that's where we're at. Search In Tune with T-Mill. Let's start the show.
Hi, my name is Catherine Hereford, and I'm here to talk about the upcoming special election here in Alabama for U.S. Senate. You're in tune with T-Mill.
T-Mill, come out and play.
Play it loud.
We're changing the status quo one voice at a time through music, edutainment, children, and awareness. We're progressing and preserving the culture through real conversations with people who've had real success. Multicultural artists and musicians, models, entrepreneurs, innovators, and activists. This is Paradox East, and you are in tune with T-Mill. Powered by the maitlandconservatory.org.
Thank you for listening to In Tune with T-Mill.
Welcome you guys to another edition of In Tune with T-Mill. I'm your host, T-Mill, live from the Rocket City. You will now be encouraged and entertained. Nothing will change until you change something. We are here to change the status quo one more time. And again, to talk out loud. That's what we're doing. We're thinking out loud. Our comments, we're talking about solutions, not the problems. There's plenty of places that you can go to talk about the problems, but here we're here to talk about the solutions. And because, again, this is another upcoming election, and we want the facts. We want to make sure that we're digging into the details. We don't believe in the headlines. We want the facts only, all right? And because I need a little bit of help, y'all know how I do it. I need some professional help. I need somebody that knows about voting a lot more than I do. All I know is I get up and I go vote and I find out who I'm voting for. Anything outside of that, I have no idea. So I got to bring in a professional. And I have a good friend to the show, a good friend that we've been working together in just different areas, a lot of events here in the city. She's helped us set up voters registration at hip hop events. I mean, we're at a hip hop event signing people up to vote, and she's definitely changing the status quo. And we're here to talk to you guys today about voting in every election. All right. So I've got Miss Catherine Hereford here in tune with T-Mill. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You just had a birthday. You turned 21, right? So that's
Yes.
That's absolutely. How's your day been going so far?
It's been great. I've been spending part of the weekend in Nashville. I got to see Kamasi Washington up in Nashville last night. It was amazing.
I have no idea who that is. Who is that?
Kamasi Washington's a jazz artist, and he is amazing. You have to check him out because just transcendental experience. It was amazing. It was an amazing show. So I'm still a little hyped from that.
Me too. I just drove in.
There you go. See? Awesome.
So
awesome.
cool.
And also now we're talking about, voting, and I want to talk about why it's important. Well, again, people know, but they have to find a reason for them to vote. So when you think about the average person that that may be, on any income level. If you could break it down from, just every class of career, when you think about low income or mid income or high level income, from the person who just graduated high school to the person that is well into their career. Why is it important to vote? Why is it important to have your voice heard? And you may not understand all of the policies and everything like that, but why is it important that everyone votes?
Well, one of the reasons, and it might not necessarily be the most important, but this is something that I think about a lot, is that the powers that be and that have been, the people that have been in power in our country and in our state especially, don't want people like you and I to vote. There is a active effort to suppress votes in black communities, for young people. There's gerrymandering that's happening here in Alabama and in other states as well, but it's pretty flagrant here in Alabama.
That sounds like something that happens wrong when you cook. What does gerrymandering mean? Gerrymandering
is the way that they redraw voting districts to favor a certain side. Generally, it's the conservative Republican side that they have made it so they break up blocks of people that would be voting the same way and distribute them differently among voting groups, so that your districts are different, so that it helps maintain power by the status quo. So the fact that that's happening, the fact that it's they're closing here in Alabama, they closed a bunch of DMVs in what's called the Black Belt. So places where there's heavy population of African Americans, they've been basically disenfranchised by not having a place to go get a driver's license that you need to vote, or an identification that you need to vote.
And there's an actual map that they have online that you can look at where they did it, and if you dig more into where it is, like you said, it's all low-income areas. It's like 80% and maybe 1 or 2 on the other side of town, but mostly low-income areas.
Right. And if you read some of the research that's been done, it's not saving the state money like was originally claimed.
They claimed, some millions of dollars that it was going to do, and it came nowhere near close.
Nowhere near. So you see stuff like that, and you know that if people are trying so hard to prevent us from voting, then they know it's important. They know that voting is important, and that's how they're maintaining their power, and that's why they're trying to keep us from voting. So if they know it's important, then I see it's important too, and I want to make sure that I participate in that civic duty as much as possible. We have so many things that we need to do to help each other as citizens, and voting is one of them. Jury duty, I remember you telling me that some people are reluctant to register to vote because they're afraid that it's going to sign them up for jury duty.
I was going to say, and that's the most common response that I get from people, why they don't vote, and especially folks from different walks of life and from where we come from. And there's that myth or that thing about jury duty. But break it down when people say, "Oh, if I vote, then I have to do jury duty," or I'm gonna have to do it anyway, or whatever.
Well, you're already
somehow by not voting, I'm not gonna have to do jury duty.
Yeah, well, voting isn't the only way that you get put in the pool for jury duty. So if you have an ID, a government-issued ID, you're already in the pool for jury duty. So
say that again for the folks for the folks in the back. Say it again.
You are already in the pool for jury duty, so you don't need to worry about it increasing your chances because you've registered to vote. I've been voting for, I'm 39 now, so I've been voting for 20 years, and I have never been summoned for jury duty. So
me as well. So again, I would like a day off from work, some free food, but I haven't done it yet.
And I think it's important for us to participate in that too. It's another civic duty that, if we let just a certain type of person control all of these trials, we have a horrible problem here in Alabama of sending people to jail and prison for nonviolent offenses. I'm sure we all know some people that have their first weed offense and they're in prison right now.
Right.
And that's disgusting. That's something that I would love to get more involved in trying to change. And that's something that if we don't vote, it's going to stay the same. And the same people that don't want us to vote are the same people locking us up.
And how do we have a fair justice system or a fair shot in the courtroom if we're not in the courtroom, or if we're reluctant to get in the jury to
Right.
try some of these cases or to have our voice heard. So
Yeah.
we're saying there's something wrong with the justice system. The jury was all white, or the jury was all this, but we don't want to go and do jury duty.
Yeah, do
You know
it.
who wants to do jury duty? People that want to put people behind bars.
Exactly.
You know, that want those things to happen, but we don't want to do it. That's
Right.
weird.
That is weird, and we need to participate in every part of our government and every part of our judicial system because it's failing us right now, you know, and we have to help it help us. You know, we have to work at it to make it work for us.
Now, all the work that you've been doing. Now, also, what brought you or what started your interest in getting involved in not even local politics, but just politics in general? What drew your interest into getting involved? And, you know, why do you think it's important to be involved in that capacity?
Okay, I think that part of what has made me pay more attention is the election of Donald Trump last November. It was difficult for me just because Donald Trump ran on a platform of bigotry, and he basically promised to make life harder for people with brown skin. You know, there are a lot of things he didn't come right out and say, but there were a lot of dog whistles and things that he let people know who he was going to be working for. And it's not my homosexual brothers and sisters. It's not my brown skin brothers and sisters. It's not women. It's definitely not women. So knowing that there were so many people that would get behind that and say, you know, they hear his bigoted messages, but the fact that they would say, I'm voting for that, you know, is disturbing. And I didn't realize that there were so many people in our country that felt that way and that would co-sign that type of behavior. But it made me, and I think a lot of people, I think this is true for a lot of people, it woke us up and made us realize we have to become more involved, because if we're leaving it up to the people who are voting for Donald Trump, you know, we're going to keep getting the short end of that stick over and over and over. We have to do something. So I started to pay more attention, and this special election it especially got my attention because a special election voter turnout is low. Typically, I think, you know, 19% of people who would vote in a presidential election, for instance, or eligible voters, I guess I should say, only 19%. And so that means your vote counts for like 5 times what it normally would. And so because voter turnout is so low, I recognized automatically an opportunity. You know, if we can turn people out to vote, then we can counteract the Alabama just the sentiment that, you know, we're going to vote Republican no matter what. It's very difficult here in Alabama for Democrats to win elections. And I'm not even saying this from a perspective of a Democrat. I don't necessarily consider myself a Democrat, and I have been very disillusioned working with the Democratic Party. Just becoming more involved, I see that they have a lot of faults as well. I hope that we can get away from so much bipartisan fighting and it being an issue just about Democrats and Republicans, and we can start talking about issues more. I think we really need to get into the issues. And so I saw that we have this candidate, Roy Moore, who was an unseated judge. He was thrown out of office twice for not upholding the Constitution, for keeping the 10 Commandments, building a statue outside of his courthouse, and then not removing it when he was ordered to do so. Now, I know that religion is very important to a lot of Alabamians, but our country is founded on separation of church and state, and we cannot have a theocracy. Not everyone believes in Christianity, and we can't let the religious beliefs of few dictate laws for all of us. And separation of church and state is very important, I believe. Now, another thing that I noticed about Roy Moore early on is that he has a lot of bigoted ideas that I can't get behind, and I really wanted Doug Jones, who is the Democratic candidate, to shine and to help promote him, because he is such a strong person as far as his record with civil rights. I really didn't care for the way that they tried to tout him as, you know, his main accomplishment is prosecuting the Birmingham church bombers. That's great. You know, that's wonderful that he did that, but he was just doing his job. And so it was underwhelming for me when he was running before the before the primaries when he was running, and there were other candidates that I preferred. There were a couple of African-American candidates, and then there was also a candidate named Michael Hansen, and I appreciated his perspective, and he really let you know where he stood on the issues. Doug Jones just seemed to me kind of bland, not really willing to talk about the way that he felt on certain issues, and I didn't like them just parading the whole Birmingham church bomber thing as, a reason why we should vote for him. I needed more substance.
Absolutely.
And then so as I got to know him as a candidate, I got to see that he is very intelligent and very deep and feels the way that I feel about a lot of issues. I wish he would take a stronger stance on health care. I think we have a terrible situation in our country, health care. What we're paying is insane. The insurance being this unnecessary middleman, I can't stand our healthcare system right now. And as much as I love the ACA, or what people like to call Obamacare, I think, it's problematic that we are, punishing people for not having insurance when it should be about healthcare. It shouldn't be about insurance. We shouldn't be made to pay greedy, useless insurance companies.
Which brings me to one question of one of the things that we're facing, that we're up against in this upcoming election, Tuesday. So besides also with healthcare, what are some of the things that you see that are on the table, or reasons why people should vote in this election? What are some of the things that we're facing, like healthcare? What are some of the things on the table?
Well, along the same lines as healthcare, I know that a lot of people are talking about the abortion issue and using that as, where they draw the line, and I hear a lot of people saying that they wouldn't vote for Doug Jones because he supports abortion. And I just want to make it really clear. I've heard a lot of misinformation about Doug Jones supporting abortion up until birth, which is crazy. That's not a thing. That's just delivery of a baby, at that,
right.
you're not, nobody, that it's illegal. It's been illegal for decades, and nobody is putting that on the table. And we've had Republicans in office for a while now, and they haven't changed the existing abortion laws. And the existing abortion laws are not going to change. And all that Doug Jones wants is he favors keeping the laws the way they are. And that's all anybody is going to do. Roy Moore isn't going to get elected and change abortion laws. He's not going to reverse Roe versus what? Not Roe versus, is it Roe versus what now? I can't think of what the abortion.
One of those.
Yeah, they are not gonna reverse that. Nobody is. So I wish that people would stop using that as, their one issue to vote for, because it's a non-issue in this election. Nobody's going to change the existing abortion laws, and Doug Jones does not advocate for anything insane like, abortions up until the time of birth. That's not a thing. So.
And and again, for the people that you've just broken it down and, basically killed that myth. But for people that, I wonder if people decide not to vote for Doug Jones because of that, but they don't want to vote for Roy Moore because of that, I'm trying to figure out if they're going to vote at all. And you have to also pick and choose your battles. No, I don't think there's going to be one candidate ever that aligns with everything that you want, everything that you believe in. Mm-hmm. So how important is it to select? Is it better to not vote, or to find some of the things that you align with and vote for that, and then follow up that conversation and say, okay, yes, this is one of the areas that I didn't agree with you. Now let's have I'm going to vote for you, but now we're going to have a conversation about that because I want to see that change. If that was indeed the issue that he was running on, or whatever. So how important is it to vote for someone and then follow up with where you see a disconnect with your beliefs?
That's a great question, because that's exactly what I'm doing this election. I don't love everything about Doug Jones. There are some, missteps I think he's made in his campaign that have really made me mad, especially because I've been caping for him. I've been canvassing. I've been doing voter registration events like you talked about. I've been distributing stickers and magnets and yard signs and everything, and just talking to anybody who will listen about this, because I believe it's very, very important to get Doug Jones elected. However, he made an ad it was about a month ago, I think, that he released it, called Honor.
Right.
And he opened the ad talking about this Confederate general, and I believe his name's William Oates. And this man, if you look at his entry in the Encyclopedia of Alabama, he was a monster. He was a well-known white supremacist. He worked against Reconstruction, the period after slavery, when there was actually some biracial government here in the South, and there were actually black people making lots of advancements during Reconstruction, and then that was crushed, it was suppressed, and Jim Crow replaced it and just completely destroyed the period of rebuilding after the Civil War, where there was biracial democracy and there was lots of progress being made, and then the progress was set back. And William Oates was instrumental in a lot of that. William Oates, this Confederate general that Doug Jones was talking about in this ad, and again, this ad is called Honor. And so, he talks about how these two men come together, a Union general, or I want to say United States general, and a Confederate general, because I want to stop saying Union and Confederate, because it was really the United States and a group of traitors that went against the United States. And the language is important here. We are immersed in Confederate imagery, and it makes me very angry. So that struck a nerve with me when Doug Jones released this ad, and it was basically like both of these men are honorable, and they came together in the Civil War. And then the overarching concept of the ad was compromise, but there was no compromise among these two men. They were fighting a war. I just thought it was a ridiculous ad, and I think that maybe their campaign, they were trying to court some good old boys, or I'm not sure exactly who they were trying to reach with that ad, but it alienated me a lot. It made me angry, because if I could get rid of all of the Confederate monuments, personally myself, I would do it. If I could, make it like it is in Germany, where they couldn't fly the Confederate flag, just like the Nazi flag, I think that would be great here, because we're talking about traitors to our country. We're talking about people that fought to enslave other people, and it was just as bad as the Holocaust, if not much worse, because it went on for hundreds of years, and we still feel the effects of it today, every day, whether we realize it or not. The racism that we're immersed in here in this country is so pervasive that I think that the images, Confederate images, are part of the problem, and it's just something that I personally, I don't care for. So when Doug Jones made that ad, it made me angry, like I said, and I'll try not to ramble about it so much, but
No, but again, I think you bring up an important point, because we have to feel comfortable with saying, I think this is wrong, I don't agree with this, or I agree with that. I think that's human. I think as far as his campaign goes, I think where, in my mind now, I've got to break this down again in a way that I understand it like a 5-year-old. But when I look at it, it seems, if I had to go with my gut instinct, I think that he could use someone in his campaign that he trusts with sort of managing and developing his sympathy, or to be able to connect with both sides,
Absolutely.
with all ethnicities.
Absolutely.
As opposed to trying to play the fence and appease to this class of people and now this class. Because when I saw that ad, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I see what you're doing, but it almost seems like, okay, I need these people to vote, so let me go after this crowd.
Right.
I need this crowd to vote, so now let me go after this crowd. And there's a way you can do that without offending one or the other.
Exactly.
It's very hard, but it's a way that you can do it.
Right.
And that's just to be, again, humane, to have compassion, and you just need that person in your corner, whether that's your PR person or whoever that person is that helps you in your campaign with optics and making sure that you present this in the right way, to say, okay, look, there's no way to please everybody, but you have to really be careful of not making it look like a thing. Just be honest.
Yes.
And I know in politics, we all, we're looking for, again, sort of like a ringleader or entertainment. That's unfortunately what we've sort of turned it into. But these are our lives and our children's lives that we're talking about. So I think candidates need to become more compassionate and more honest,
Absolutely.
To to not just be so gung-ho and robotic in their, okay, I've got to talk to this way to this people, I got to talk to this way. Just be honest, and to be, because again, look at Trump. Regardless of how we may feel, this is probably one of the first people that have literally said what they thought, how they think, and everything, and we're wondering why people gravitated toward that so much. Well, look at how many people in this country feel that way. And now that they have someone that's totally honest, that's telling you what they don't like, their views, and how they feel, again, that's what gravitated towards. So I think that's important. And again, now in this election, what, as far as voting, what are some of the things that people, if they can't vote, or if they can't find a place to register to vote, they can also vote online. I mean, register to vote online and vote. So what are some of the ways when that people can vote, and also some of the if they don't know how to vote, what are some of the ways that they can get involved to register, and what would they need to register, and then also how can they vote if they don't have that information in their area? Yes.
Okay, so to register to vote, you can do it online. I want to say it's alabamavotes.gov. I'll check and make sure. But I think it's alabamavotes.gov. So you can register there. Now, it's too late to register for the special election, unfortunately. I think the deadline was
about a week ago.
Exactly.
Last week, or
yes.
Right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. But register to vote for any of the next elections coming up, because it's very important that we all get involved in local government. Local government might even be more important to us in our everyday lives than actual, the federal government and the presidential elections and whatnot. You just need an ID to vote, and there is a list on alabama.gov of the different kinds of IDs that they accept. You really don't need anything to apply. You just need to know your basic information, like your address. You can go to the courthouse and get a registration form. You can do it online. You can go to, I think there are some other local businesses, but I'm not exactly sure.
And again, you mentioned IDs, because you can also get a state-issued ID, where it may be not a driver's license, but it's an ID.
Absolutely.
You need an ID to buy cigarettes or buy alcohol. I'm pretty sure you're going to need an ID for other things. So maybe if you don't drive, or if you can't drive, or if your license is suspended or whatever, you can still get a ID,
right,
or a government ID, or I believe are school IDs acceptable? Like if you're going to college, or
I believe so. I don't want to tell you anything wrong, because I'm not exactly sure, but I believe you can use a school ID.
Yeah, and again, you guys can go and check this out. But I believe also, if it's something that's issued officially from the city or the state, and that's an ID with your picture and your information on it, you can more than likely use that as your ID. And again, once you go online to vote or to register, they'll have a list of acceptable IDs. So don't just stop at a driver's license, or don't just stop at somewhere else. So that's another way that you can do that. So in closing, what do you think about, or again, it's so hard, and again, I want to make sure that people understand this, that why it's so important, not only in this election, but every election, to get out and vote. For any other thoughts that you want to leave the people with on, the importance, or just something that you want to encourage, or just any information you want the people to have?
Okay. I think that it's important that we all start doing things differently. Right now, the system is not working for us the way that it should. It's working for a select few. And we need to take the power back. And it's possible, they've done it in other countries. There are ways that they've made advancements that we're capable of doing. I think healthcare is so important, and other countries are having universal healthcare, and it's working for them. And we can do the same thing here. And it's actual popular idea here, but we don't get the right people in place who make it happen, because who is in power are the people who are controlled by lobbyists, by pharmaceutical companies, by insurance companies. Those people have the money and the power right now, and they're really working to screw the rest of us over, to keep all of our prices high, keep our doctor's visits expensive. we could do so much better as a nation, and that's just one of the ways that we could do better. Universal health care. I really, really know that we need to do some prison reform here, and it is not working for us. It's not working for us having so many of our brothers and sisters incarcerated for nothing. For a crime that no one was hurt, nothing was stolen, there's no reason to have people locked up like Centonia Brown. Have you heard the story of Centonia Brown? Centonia Brown is I believe she's 16, or I'm not sure, I think she was 15 when she got arrested, so it's a couple of years after the fact. But she ran away from home, I believe, and she was forced into sex work.
Is this the young lady that defended herself?
Yes.
Okay, tell that story.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes, in self-defense, she thought that a man who picked her up for sex when she was 15 years old, a man who was into having sex with children, he reached under his bed and she thought he was going for a gun, and she pulled a gun out of her purse and shot him. So she got sentenced to, I want to say, life in prison, still in prison, whereas, we have all these rapists that are walking around, where that's a violent crime where somebody actually got hurt. And yes, this man got shot, but she was a child and she was forced into sex work. They have to take those things into consideration. They can't treat her as if she was an adult, especially under the circumstances and the trauma that she was facing. That's completely unjust, and we have to do something about that to keep young women and men like her from being in that situation. It could happen to you, and it could happen to me.
Absolutely, and she may not have a jury of her peers at this because we don't want to do jury duty because we're afraid of jury duty.
Exactly.
And now we may leave her fate, so to speak, up to people that don't look like her, don't come from her background, things like that. So.
Who will punish her and have punished her more harshly, and that needs to stop. So those are just some of the things that we could do better, and we won't do better until we all come together and do it together. We can. There's so much progress to be made here, and we've made a lot of progress. Of course, we've made a lot of progress, but there's so much more progress to be made, and we have to get together and get it done.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you and the progress that you're making, and everyone that's volunteering, that's canvassing, that's working to get more people involved in voting. And listen, again, if you guys are receiving text messages or anything, magically enough, I haven't received any text messages, so it's funny to hear everyone complaining about all the texts and calls that they're getting. I'm good, because I haven't got any.
Me too.
But you can reply with stop, just like you would with anything else. Just write stop, and those text messages will stop. But again, you guys, y'all on social media all day long anyway. You get notifications. Just because it's not a notification that somebody liked your picture and somebody that's asking you to vote, come on. You got to relax.
Thank you.
All right? So,
Thank you.
Make sure that you're doing that. And again, thank you to everyone such as yourself, Catherine, that is getting out here and getting more people involved and doing it in a way that connects and that matters.
Thank you as well. This is very important work that you're doing.
Absolutely. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to do a club tour. We're going to go to all the clubs and do voter registration. Cool. Ladies get in free as long as you register to vote. We'll do it like that.
Awesome.
Probably can't get a free drink, but maybe they can give you a wing basket or something like that. So thank you guys again for tuning in. We're here with Catherine. And for more information, where can people get in touch with you or to get involved in volunteering?
Let's see. My name is Catherine Hereford, Catherine with a C, last name Hereford. You can find me on Facebook, also catherine.hereford@gmail.com. And I would be happy to answer any of your questions. I would personally drive you to the polls if you need to go. I will pick you up and take you to vote if that's what you require, if that would help. But any questions that you have, I'm always happy to answer. I would love to come back, as a matter of fact, and talk about desegregation of schools here in Huntsville as well, because that's a big issue for me that I like to talk about. So
absolutely, we definitely have to do that.
Yes.
And for you guys, you just brought up a good point. If you go online to alabamavotes.gov, they also have a list that you can, if you need a ride to the polls, they will come pick you up. It's not Enterprise, but they'll come pick you up. If you need a ride to the polls, or if you need someone to come pick you up, or if you need help not registering, but voting or sending in your absentee ballot, basically there's no excuse. Whatever you want to do in this election, there's no excuse. You do have to get up off your butt, but there's no excuse. You
it's
can make
so
it
important. This one's very important.
Absolutely.
Please vote.
So you guys, please vote in every election. It takes about 5 minutes. And no matter what it is, it's important. So again, if you want to have your voice heard, if you don't like people telling you to shut up, get out and vote. And I know no one likes for someone to silence them and tell them to be quiet.
Let your voice be heard.
Let your voice be heard, you guys. This is another edition of In Tune with T-Mill. My guest is Catherine Hereford for talking about voting, why we should vote. We work woke, we vote. And make sure you guys are voting in the upcoming election. We'll see you guys on the next episode of In Tune with T-Mill.